This is gonna be a rough one. The Mandalorian is back with its third season, and right off the bat, I'm disappointed. It's not off to a good start. Now that doesn't mean it won't pick it up later, but this is the premiere. It should start off good so people want more. Anyway, I'll start with the positive, and then I'll move to the negative. And there's a lot of negative. So I'll quickly mention what I like about Season 3 so far. I'm entertained. This show does entertain me, at least enough to keep watching, which is the least we can hope for any TV show. And I'm certainly more entertained than when I was watching the Book of Boba or Obi-Wan Kenobi, which isn't a hard goal to achieve. But for that, I'm grateful. So the show has still got my attention. This is something many shows have failed to do, especially by their third season. Like the other seasons, it's got great action, and its soundtrack is at the top of its game, and it looks visually great. And that's about it for the positive. On to the negative. One thing I like about The Mandalorian might also be one of its biggest flaws, and that's its simplicity. The storyline is very simple in Season 3. Mando is in possession of the dark saber, an ancient sword that grants the owner the ability to lead Mandalore, the home planet of the Mandalorians. The problem is that Mando, in the series The Book of Boba, admitted to removing his helmet, a violation of the Mandalorian code. This resulted in him being removed of his Mandalorian title. The only way he can restore his title, and his honor, is to bathe in the ancient waters of Mandalore. So that's a very simple, easily comprehensible story. On the other hand, where this becomes flawed is that I believe that they have too little material and they choose to fill the majority of the screen time with filler plot. Filler plot, by definition, is content that doesn't serve a purpose. It has no true bearing on the story, and thus removing it would have little to no effect on the story overall. This episode is plagued by filler plot. To highlight the filler plot in this show, I will point out to the very first scene of this season. We have something like a Mandalorian initiation ceremony. During this initiation, a giant turtle croc monster attacks the Mandalorians. Then our main Mandalorian, Din Djarin, saves them by blasting the monster with his spaceship. Even though this was cool, this took up to 6 minutes of screen time from after the recap, and it had virtually no relevance to the show. From there, Din Djarin talks to the armorer about redeeming himself by bathing in the waters of Mandalore, which the armorer approves of.
You have removed your helmet. You are no longer Mandalorian.
The creed teaches us of redemption.
Redemption is no longer possible since the destruction of our homeworld.
If I visit the planet and I can bring you proof that I have bathed in the living waters beneath the mines of Mandalore, then by creed, the decree of exile will be lifted and I would be redeemed.
This is the way.
The problem is that almost this exact same scene occurred in Book of Boba.
Din Djarin, have you ever removed your helmet?
I have.
Then you are a Mandalorian no more.
I beg you for your forgiveness. How can I atone?
According to creed, one may only be redeemed in the living waters beneath the mines of Mandalore.
But the mines have all been destroyed.
This is the way.
If both scenes are compared, we gather almost the exact same information. We know that Din Djarin removed his helmet, that he is no longer a Mandalorian, that he must bathe in the waters of Mandalore to redeem himself, and that Mandalore was destroyed in the Purge. The recap gave us all that information in case you missed the Book of Boba. The only new information presented in this scene is that Mandalore's surface has been crystallized and that Din Djarin will provide proof that he bathed in the water.
And this relic only proves that Mandalore's entire surface has been crystallized by fusion rays.
If I visit the planet and I can bring you proof that I have bathed in the living waters beneath the mines of Mandalore, then by creed, the decree of exile will be lifted and I would be redeemed.
But neither of the two pieces of new information were necessary for the audience. Din could have discovered the crystallization of the surface of Mandalore himself. In fact, that probably would have been more cool. And Din could have also brought back proof of his bathing without talking to the armorer. After all, the armorer had the ability to verify this anyway. Since none of the new information was necessary, and all the other information was already known, this scene was entirely irrelevant. And even if you believe that the new information was relevant, this whole sequence took nearly 9 minutes from the recap. 9 minutes. This could have easily been accomplished in 1 to 2 minutes. 9 minutes out of a 35-minute episode. That's about a quarter of the episode. But this wasn't the only screen time wasting we saw. Mando went to Navarro to visit Carl Weathers. Now you could watch the entire episode and you will be hard-pressed to find any legitimate reason Mando is there. It took nearly 20 minutes into the episode for Mando to give something resembling an explanation. He states that he wants IG-11 to be fixed so that the robot can help him navigate Mandalore. The problem with this is that he didn't even realize that was possible until he saw the statue of the robot, which means Mando wasn't there for IG-11, meaning the only explanation is that Mando was looking for a robot to help him navigate Mandalore. But why did he need to go all the way to Navarro to do that? Probably so that the episode could be filled with filler plot and familiar faces. But within the Navarro plot is even more filler plot. So we got filler plot in filler plot. Mando and Carl Weathers get into it with some pirates. How exactly is this relevant to the story? I'm not sure. Then they go through the whole sequence of trying to fix IG-11. It's beyond me how anything is remaining from this robot. Do you really believe that anything would be left after this?
I must be destroyed.
Bullshit!
But this is Disney Star Wars. Apparently the Death Star can survive this explosion. Mostly intact and mostly operational. So it looks like the Mandalorian is just following that pattern. While Mando is fixing up the robot, it ends up going back to its original settings and attacking them. This is just another sequence of action to cover up a mostly meaningless scene. The robot's neutralized, but further damaged, so they end up taking the robot to the Anzellans to be fixed. And that's that with the robot. Then Mando leaves Navarro, but gets attacked by the pirates again, and they have a space battle in an asteroid field. It's a cool scene, but it's another mindless action scene. This leads to the introduction of the head pirate. Oh, sorry. Wrong clip. There we go. The head pirate is introduced, and then Mando just takes off with hyperdrive. Not exactly sure why Mando didn't just do that before he entered the asteroid field. Well, probably so he can have a space battle and an intro to the discount Davy Jones. I'm just wondering if these pirates will actually be important to the overall narrative of the show, or were they created with the sole purpose of killing screen time? Now, maybe everything that happened at Navarro might be relevant later. It's not exactly like this is the first time in The Mandalorian that random subplots became important later on. But I personally can't help but think that all of the Navarro story could have been cut from this episode. If that's the case, they wasted about 17 minutes of the episode with that. Omitting the recap, that's half the episode. Add that to the 9 minutes wasted prior, and you get about 3/4 of the episode wasted. And from there, we get to our final scene of the episode. Mando visits Bo-Katan, where she lost her forces and tells him that she's given up on getting the dark saber. So the clinically depressed Bo-Katan tells Mando where the water under the mines are located. And that's it. That's the whole episode.
You gotta be fucking kidding.
This episode ended where it should have started. I was interested in seeing the conflict between Din Djarin and Bo-Katan, but that got sidelined and possibly retconned. In fact, the direction that we expected this season to go after Season 2 was completely retconned. Baby Yoda isn't training with Luke, and Bo-Katan isn't trying to get the dark saber anymore. It seems like our time and expectations were killed. My conclusion is that the overwhelming majority of this episode didn't need to happen at all. Maybe some of it will pay off later, but this isn't how you want to premiere your new season of a show. Premiere should have a bang that has you begging for more, not begging to skip. It's like every filler plot was decorated with unearned action sequences to fool you into believing that you were watching something important. Take away the action sequences and reflect on the relevancy to the larger narrative of the series, and you're left realizing that almost nothing happened in this episode. You could easily sum up what happened in this episode in about 2 to 3 sentences. Mando wants IG-11 fixed, Mando ran into some pirates, and Mando was told where the mines of Mandalore are by the now isolated and disgraced Bo-Katan. There, 3 sentences, and only the last one was important. Look, I'm still a fan of this show. As I said earlier, it still entertains me. I still like the characters and the world around them. It's the best Disney has done with Star Wars. By default, I mean the bar's set really low there. It just feels like a lot of the magic is gone. I can only hope that this is just a lot of build-up for a really big payoff. And with that, I will end my review. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. See you on the next one.